Okay, we have to move on. The next set of things I want to deal with are more complex kinds of queries. Those I call housekeeping queries, things that you need to do when you want to, move information from one table to another, create a new table, get rid of old information, that sort of stuff. Up until this point, I've been very careful to work out of one table and one table only. Because when you add a second table, it makes things more complex and you have to be a little bit more careful about what you're doing. Let me just show you why. Suppose I wanted all kids from New York. Okay, that's in two different tables, right? Kids' information is in one table, where they live is in a second table. So to do something like that, the process is pretty much the same. You're going to do query design. You're going to pick the tables that you want. So household and kids, something like that. And you want to make sure, you want to check to see if there's a link between the two. Right? Now that link's there because we related to tables, it knows that sort of stuff. If it's not there, you can go ahead and just make a runtime one, and you just click and drag and drop. It works the same way as you did in table relationship, only it's not a permanent thing, it's just for this query. Okay. 99 out of 100 times you want to have that link there. I'll show you later today the one instance where you don't want to have a link. But if you don't have that link, in most cases, it's going to try to create this very huge table, and it's going to run, and it's going to run, and run, and run, and run, and I can't stop it. You can't stop it until it's done. And every semester when I give this exam, somebody forgets to do that, and it takes up 5-10 minutes of their exam time. Okay. So, word of caution here: make sure that when you have multiple tables, you have this link here. Okay. Now, what it does is this. So we'll pick HHID, state from there, and then I'll just pick some kid stuff. Okay. And I'm just going to run this. Well, actually, let me go back. Let me add a couple of other fields here, just to make it easier for everybody to see what's going on. And I'm going to put the household information all together. So that you understand the process by which this works. Okay. All right, so there's my query. I got some household information, I got some kids information. So I'm pulling information from two different tables. All right?
How'd you get those two tables up there?
Well, if they're not up there already, you can just do show table right in the middle of the ribbon. And then I'm in query design. And then you just pick whatever tables you want to put up there. Okay, and then I'm going to run this. Okay, now, all right. So, look, in the first household, 1001, there are two kids that live there. Okay? And so notice here, it duplicated that information. The phone number is the same. And any information from the household table is going to get duplicated for each kid in that household. So if we find another one, like here, household 1002 has 3 kids in it. So that the household information is duplicated twice, so there are actually 3 rows there, or 3 records. Everybody with me on that? Okay. Now, it's important you understand that because the process works like this. You can think of it, behind the scenes is a little bit more complex than this, but this is a good way to think about it. It first creates a big table, just like the one I showed you there. So it'll add the extra information from the household for each kid record. So then we have that big, massive table. And then we tell it which columns, or fields we want to keep. So it'll go back and knock out which fields we don't want. And then we tell it which records to keep. And so it goes back through that big table and knocks out all the records that we don't want. Okay. So it works through that process. It picks the tables, builds a master table, picks which columns it wants to keep out of that, and then which rows to keep out of that. Okay. Because we're gonna have to use that to get different kinds of answers today. Because sometimes you care about what's from the master side, which in this case is the household side, and sometimes you care about what's on the detail side, right? So if we wanted For example, here, I said I want a list of kids who live in New York, right? If I said I want a list of households who have kids that live, a list of households in New York that have kids, then I don't want to have this household information show up 3 times, 2 times, whatever. I want the household, I just want one record for each household. Let me repeat that one more time. You gotta really listen to what the question's asking. If I wanted a list of kids who live in New York, that means I want each individual kid to show up because I care about, for whatever reasons. If I say I want a list of households, something from the master table, then I would, generally speaking, I'm only going to want one record for each household. Okay. So to something as simple as I'd like to know how many households in New York have kids living in them. Well, I certainly don't want to count a household that has 3 kids in it 3 times, because my count's going to be way off. So when you read these questions, you have to think about, well, does the answer pertain to what's on the master side, or is it more about what's on the detail side? And that'll shape how you do these questions. Okay. Anyway, let's go into some details here. Households with cars. I'll throw this one away. Okay. I need a list of households that have cars. So, okay, well, let's do that one. All right. Households with cars. So if I were to do it, well, first of all, we'll just start this off, query design. I'd obviously need households and I need vehicles. Okay. Again, the link's there, so that's good. We don't have to worry about that. And if I were to run this, let me just run this for a second again, so everybody can see what we got going on. Oops. I got to pick some fields first. So household ID, I don't know, state, city, zip code. Oh. Just stop that. Something like, okay, like that. Okay. Now, notice here again, household 1001 shows up twice. Why is that? It's because there's 2 cars registered to that address. Okay. So what we want to do here is we want to get rid of all the duplicates, and the way to do that would be something like this. This is one way to do it. Come back into here, query design, design view. Okay. The totals thing. Okay. So I turn that on. Okay. I want to group by household because basically what I do is I'm going to count up the number of cars in each household. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. All right. So I do that. So how do I want to do this? Let me back up a step here. Okay. One other thing that you have to understand, I forget. Sorry about that. When we join 2 tables like this, I said it created that big list, right? But one of the things it does is it's creating that big master table, and then decides what to keep and what not. It only keeps records that show up on both sides. Okay. So when I was doing that kids one, if we look down through it carefully, we'll notice every now and then there's a gap in household IDs because some household didn't have any kids in it. So as part of the join, this is called a table join here. This is called an inner join, which makes it's the intersection of those 2 tables. I have to do a little set theory here this morning. Okay. So if there's, in this instance here where I'm doing cars or vehicles, then if they don't own a vehicle, they're not gonna get part of that table. So they have to be, the household ID number has to be on both sides, on both those tables, for it to be part of this thing. Okay. Then it goes through and knocks out what you don't want to keep. All right. So then I can, if I want a list of households that own a car, I probably should get rid of this. That doesn't matter because I don't care about state, and I don't care about city, zip, so I get rid of all that stuff. I just want to keep the stuff that you need. So I do need that, and I don't know, we'll pick VIN. And then over here we'll just say count like that. Okay. And then I can run this. And there's my list of households that own a car. Or actually, we have a little bit more information here. We have a list of all households that own at least one car, and we know exactly how many they own. Okay. All right. So a more complicated one would be, we'd like a list of kids who have, or actually in this case, they're now in teenagers. So we need a list of teenagers who have a driver's license, who, and what else did I say here? Nope. Yeah, kids from New York that we can call. Kid drivers. So teenagers that have a driver's license from New York that we can call. All right. List of teenagers from New York that we can call. So list of teenagers says that we want the answer to be coming from the detail side. So we want, if there's two kids in a household, we want both their names or both their IDs or whatever. Okay. So to make that one, we'll just start fresh. I think it's probably the easiest way to do that. And create query design. I need households and teens because that's where the drivers are going to be, right? Even though we still have that field driver in the ones that are less than 13, they're not going to have a driver's license. Okay. List of kids, so we'll pull the stuff from the teenage side, like that. And then we said from New York that we can call, so we're going to want to make sure they have a phone number so that we can call them and stuff like that. So again, here it's pretty much the same as before. This would be New York is not null for area code is not null. Phone number is not null. And can call would be a Y, right? And then we'll run this query and we'll get a list of kids, teenagers, that have what we want. Okay. All right. Let's just do another one here. Number of kids per state. Okay. Just some basic demographic information. Well, how many kids are in each one of these states? Give us some idea of what the market size is. Would be one of the reasons why you want to do this. Is it worth it to market in Maine, for example? Is there enough kids up there for us to do anything with it? So to make that query, again, I'm just going to start fresh. I think it's probably the quickest way to do this. Create query design. Kids by state. So I need the household table, because that's where the state information is. And then obviously kids is in the kids table. Okay, I got the link. That's good. But I want to by state. So that means I want to aggregate around state. So I pick state. And I'm going to turn on the totals query. And then over here, we can pick child ID. And we can just tell it to count up there. Right? So that just simply says, count up the number of kids in each state. And we can run this. And we can make some plans, some marketing campaign plans about whether it's worth it or not to market in certain states. All right. Okay. So the process is pretty much the same. You pick the tables, you pick the fields, you pick the records. Okay. With the understanding that when you have multiple tables, it's going to create a master table that includes records from both sides. That's the inner join part. And then you go from there. Okay. Now, which means I'm going to undo that link. Okay. If I were to try to run this query, here's what it's going to do. It's going to take the first record from household, and it's going to match it up with every record in kids. So it's going to create, out of that first record, it's going to create 7,000 records, or more than that. I don't know what's in kids. Let's call it 15,000. Okay, just round it off here. So the first record from the household is going to create 15,000 records in the answer table. Then it's going to take the second record from a household and create another 15,000. So when you're all done, you're going to have 5,000 times 15,000, which is 75 million records. Ouch. And it's almost impossible to stop it from executing that because it's just going to chug and chug and chug and chug and chug and chug. And it'll run for 15 minutes. Okay, so all you have to do here is be very careful. Think about this. You want, like I said before, 99 out of 100 times you're going to want to have a link there. And if you don't have the link, you're probably stuck. Okay? All right. So any questions about these? Okay. So your turn. And what did I do with it? Here it is. Oh, come on. Go on to practice 2. And just write queries for them. And then again, the numbers in blue are how many records you should get if you've set up the query right. And work on those. Okay?